All right, go.
Call the meeting to order at 6:46. Roll call.
It's mine.
Here.
Joe.
Not here. Not here.
Alvin.
Here.
Catherine.
Not here.
Shirley.
Not here.
Eden.
Here.
Bob.
Present.
John.
Not here.
Shirley.
Not here. Okay, so I am going to turn it over to Dr. Mike and Yelena.
All right, thank you, guys. So I'm going to share my screen and we'll run through our Contracts for Excellence and Class Size engagement presentation for you tonight. Share a little bit about some adjustments that are happening within budgets, especially based on the class size law. So Contracts for Excellence background, you guys know that we've talked about this in the past. C4E legislation was established as part of the 2007-8 enacted state budget under the foundation aid and requires that a portion of foundation aid be used for specific restricted purposes. C4E requires that funding be allocated towards specific programs that raise achievement of students with the greatest educational need, including but not limited to our English language learners, students in poverty, and students with disabilities. In 2022, legislation was updated to include additional requirements related to class size limits. So there are a series of things that can be, the Contract for Excellence money can be utilized for. So I'm going to go through some of those examples for you right now. So as part of practice and funding use, funding must be spent only within the following initiatives. Example programs by initiative that are subject to SED approval include additional instructional time. So examples: extended school year,
Here you go.
after school academic support, model programs for English language learners. Examples include the expansion of bilingual resource materials and libraries, full day pre-K, kindergarten, adding classes, additional staff or costs related to implementing full day pre-K programs, class size reduction, example, hiring teachers, paying for teacher salaries to produce a reduction in teacher to student ratio. Teacher and principal quality initiatives, creation of non-cash incentive program for high quality teachers to teach in high needs areas. Middle high school restructuring, expansion of participation in advanced placement programs. And let me put this to the side. And additionally, the state commissioner may authorize districts to implement experimental programs. Sorry, this thing is in the way. Such authorization must be granted in advance of implementation. More information about eligible uses and requirements can be found on the New York State website. So C4E has been increased by $286 million from $802 million to $1.089 billion in fiscal year 2026. This is comprised of $241 million of new funding to be used for the class size mandate in fiscal year 2026, and $45 million of existing funding that will be phased in as C4E from last year's class size allocation and will continue to be used for class size. The proposed allocation of $1.089 billion in fiscal year 2026 includes the following: discretionary $487 million. These funds are allocated to schools and may be used for eligible C4E purposes that were described on the previous slide. At the discretion of the school, principals will work with school leadership teams to plan on the use of funding for the 25-26 school year in alignment with eligible uses that I just described. They may choose to change the use of the funding from 24-25 or to maintain existing staffing positions or programs that were funded in 24-25. Targeted maintenance of effort, $602 million was allocated in this space. These funds are allocated to schools in support of specific eligible programs. Schools receiving allocations were chosen based on overall student need and capacity to carry out the specific program. So $241 million was new C4E for class size reduction mandates. $45 million was a continuing use of class size reduction mandates. $183 million in fair student funding, $87 million for integrated co-teaching classrooms, $30 million for summer program, $9 million for full day pre-K, and $7 million for autism spectrum disorder classrooms. Now, what does this look like for District 25? In total, we're receiving just under $42 million, 41,735,377. Of that, in the discretionary space, schools decide on the use within allowable programs is just under $18 million. That makes up the largest percentage of how those dollars will be used. New C4E class size reduction mandate dollars is $9.433 million. Fair student funding, just under $9 million. Integrated co-teaching classrooms, just under $2 million. Phase-in for class size, just under $1.5 million. Summer program, 1.1, just under 1.1 million. Full day pre-K, 429 plus thousand. And autism spectrum disorder dollars at 565,000 plus. And that is the allocation schedule set to be used to be supporting our district schools. So as part of this this presentation, it's really around and designed around making sure that we get public feedback regarding the Contracts for Excellence plan. Public feedback regarding the C4E plan will be taken into account in the coming weeks as they continue to work towards complying with the mandate. The deadline for submitting public comment on the C4E plan is July 8th, 2025. Educators, parents, and caregivers, and all other members of the New York City community may submit their comments by email to contractsforexcellence@schools.nyc.gov. Draft plan has been posted as part of the Contracts for Excellence public process. Members of the public are able to give feedback through this process. And following public feedback, New York City Public Schools will work with Teachers and Principals Union to finalize the plan. And under the law, these unions must sign off on the plan prior to being finalized. The plan outlines school-level policies and central-level policies. Class size reduction plan. The plan includes the school-driven planning approach for the 25-26 school year, which has directly resulted in additional resources being provided to schools. As I mentioned earlier, $241 million in Contracts for Excellence money, as well as additional city funds. About 750 schools were awarded funding to hire approximately 3,700 new teachers. Plans were developed in consultation with SLTs by individual schools. Plans were reviewed by New York City Public Schools, the UFT, and the Council of School Supervisors and Administrators. Data showing that 46% of classes across New York City were below the cap for school year 2024-25, above the 40% required by law for this year. Updates on the results of the principal space survey and work to convert rooms into instructional space that New York City Public Schools anticipates may result in an additional 1,500 seats in schools without space to comply. SEA expanded the capital approach to respond to the class size law and localized class size needs, and multiple strategies have been implemented to support teacher recruitment and retention. And you guys already know, for us at the district level, we did host a recruitment fair. We had hundreds of candidates come to the recruitment fair for each of our schools that are participating in the class size process. We'll take feedback into account in the coming weeks as we continue to work towards complying with this mandate. Again, the deadline for submitting public comment will be July 8th. Educators, parents, and caregivers, and all other members may respond and share their comments to classsize@schools.nyc.gov in regards to the class size reduction plan. And that concludes the conversation around the class size mandate and its relationship to the C4E funding. So if there are any questions or comments from the CEC, this is certainly a good time to do it. If there's more time that you need to take, there's certainly that window between now and July 8th to share any other questions that you might have.
I was just curious on the recruitment fair, were the people that showed up, were they qualified, or they needed to be qualified, or sort of where did that population sort of look
Yeah,
like?
so all the folks that were there, we did a little bit of outreach to.
Alvin's having some phone issues, sorry.
So we did some outreach to the Office of Recruitment, and all of the folks that were coming to us were either already licensed, in the process of receiving their final licensing space, or heard about it through the grapevine and were part of systems elsewhere that would like to be part of the District 25 community. So it ranged from those that were very experienced to those that have a little bit of experience to those that would be just starting out. So
And part of
a huge range of it.
part of the RSVP process was they had to be ready to start teaching in September.
Yeah.
Like Dr. Mike said, we were focusing on staff that are not currently working in other schools because we're trying to bring new people in since we have to hire so many teachers. So that was
Right.
that was the focus. And we typically also like to target certain certification areas, but since we're hiring so many people and we really need everything, we kind of opened it up to everyone. So it was a really good turnout.
Yeah, it was a terrific turnout.
Great.
And we had all of our schools present. They came with their leadership. They came with teacher leaders. They came with their the range of resources that represent who their school is. And it was a really, really good day, both shared by our leadership, teacher leaders, but also those that came. We did partner with the UFT on this event, and they were present there as well to offer some supports for anyone that may be new into the Department of Education to learn a little bit more about what it means for them to serve in the city, but in the city as a UFT member.
Okay, and so if you're not and you're be ready for September, how long does it take to be ready? Where does that
Yeah, so
process look like?
certifications typically come in by September so that folks can begin in September. If in
Okay.
fact they are one of those folks that just finished.
Just finish mean just finish.
Just finishing their certification process, which includes taking tests. They have to take assessments in order to be deemed fully qualified to assume a role in any certification area.
Okay, but that's independent of their educational background.
Well, yes, but it's part of becoming a certified teacher. They have to have a license. In order to receive the license, they have to take the assessments that go along with it as
Okay.
per the state.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that can be done between now and September.
Typically, most folks do it already. They just then have to wait for the issuance of the
Gotcha.
certification.
Yeah, good, thanks.
Anybody else?
Well, I just want to ask, because at my daughter's middle school / high school, I see that there are some teachers that are, fresh out from college, got the degree, but they're working alongside, like I just was hearing the assessment, and then maybe during the semester, they would, if everything goes accordingly, they would get certified, and then the school would offer them either a position in that school if there's an available teacher spot, or if another school is looking to hire.
Are you talking more of like the student teacher type role?
Exactly.
Okay,
So I don't know. if-
Well, yeah, student teachers. So we do have relationships with our local colleges. So Queens College will send folks in as student teachers. They'll get mentored by teachers within the school. It's part of any teacher certification program requires that teachers spend a semester in classrooms learning from a qualified teacher. So that's part of, in order to become certified, that's something that every new teacher has to do. They spend what amounts to about 4 months of time in classrooms with a cooperating teacher that kind of teaches them the ropes of on the ground training in order for them to complete their coursework. That's one of in order to be from an accredited institution, that's what they need to do in order to become certified. Yeah. And even when I was going through this myself, I wound up subbing for a little bit after I completed my degree to then eventually get fully certified, and then thereafter I had my full certification. So For most folks, when they get to this point, it's really about waiting on the certification to be issued, and then they're fully certified to teach in the classroom. But we have a range, like I said, we have a range of folks that have interest in the district, from those that are within the New York City system, from those that are on Long Island, that have said, you know what, we love to have an opportunity to work in District 25. There is a range. They're coming from
I know
all
there's some
different
parents that
spaces.
have like also previously were teaching and then like out on like maternity leaves, things like that, that are now ready to come back. And so like now they're applying to come back.
Yeah, but we've had a really good turnout, given the positions that we do have available. And I think we'll be ready to go for September.
From
I
what
don't
I'm
think it'll be
hearing,
an
I think
issue.
a lot of the schools are starting to give out offers and make placements with those staff also.
Well, they'll give verbal, and then when the time comes and the budget's open, then they can create the space where they,
Great.
yeah, but we're in good shape, and we have quite a few schools that are participating in this in varying degrees. Dependent on where they are as a school community, but we're looking to continue to expand it moving in the next year and the year after that, to comply with expectations as much as we
How
possibly
do you
can.
come up with the numbers? On how much goes to which, that we had like a table, right? How do you come up with the numbers? I'm specifically asking because the autism part had like the lowest, my personal opinion. Should get a little bit more, it shouldn't be the lowest. So what is the basis of coming up with those numbers?
So, Elena, you can correct me if there's anything else that I need to add here, but each school had to submit an application based on the conversation with the SLT and the number of positions that they needed to be available. So based on that, we have just over I want to say just over 100 teachers across the district, that we would need to be adding to our District 25 team. And that allocation that you see there covers those costs for teacher hiring. The vast majority of those funds are going to go to reduce class size. It also includes any spaces where there were requests in the application for additional funding for certain resources, maybe additional furniture might be needed, maybe additional coverage opportunities are needed. And then all of those dollars are based on those applications across the district, which helps fund what we need here as a community. And Elena, if there's anything else that I missed, but that's basically the.
Yeah, for autism spectrum disorder programs, this is just we're talking about contract for excellence money. In addition, there is additional funding, tax levy funding that city provides for autism spectrum programs that are NEST programs, or what's the other name of
Verizon.
yeah, so that's not just the only funding stream for autism programs, and it's based on teams testing students and the need that for each particular school or each particular district is needed to open additional seats for autism spectrum disorder programs, because those are special education programs, and for students that are tested into the program. So that is very different from reduced class size.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
this is not the only funding source. This is part of C4E and complying with the class size mandate. Schools will receive their funding in their budget to support their school, as they typically do. This is particularly connected to class size and ensuring that we comply.
I know that, like, for instance, the school that I'm at with our SLT, when we got the results back, we were given like the additional funding for the teachers. But the equipment, we didn't necessarily hear back because they felt once we moved the equipment around, we would have enough. So it depended on, like, I think that also came into effect for like each school, like whether they already had the equipment, just needs to relocate it, or they really needed additional also. Any other questions? Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, guys. Well, that concludes the C4E presentation. Again, we have until July 8th. And all the information that is accessible will be available on the city site, where you can continue to look for updates on how that plan has evolved based on public comment. But other than that, I thank you guys for being here and your attention to this. I know that you guys have had chock full number of meetings, so I appreciate you being here to listen in on this and for asking your questions.
So just two things before we adjourn. I know we passed the resolution yesterday.
Yep.
I know we have Leonie online, so I just wanted to make sure we discussed that we did pass a resolution yesterday regarding pre-K and pre-K and CDOs. So that was part of our meeting last night, and we will be having a special meeting after our award ceremony next week to also take a vote on our updated bylaws. The old bylaws are currently on the website for people to take a look at, and then we will address that during our meeting after the award ceremony. The award ceremony, like I said, is starting at 7 next week. Registration open at 6. So if we could be there between 6:30, be greatly appreciated, so that we can get everybody set up and situated. I have confirmation also that Shirley Jang, our student member, will be there.
Oh,
Next week. She was not aware of the changes with the meeting. She didn't see everything, so, but I spoke with her tonight. Other than that, if somebody wants to make a motion, we can. Ismat and Alvin, 7:07. Thank you, everyone.
Great, thank you.
Good night,
Thank you,
everyone.
guys. Good night.